Hello everyone, I'm Hannah, and today we'll be comparing the Cider House Rules by John Irving to A Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams, and then The Bonesetter's Daughter by Amy Tan. More specifically, we'll be examining two themes: the theme of choice, how depriving one's freedom of choice may hinder their possibility to happiness, and the theme of past, how the events of one's past can generate strong impact and influence on one's present and future. Now, a few pages into the play, we're introduced to Blanche Dubois. She grew up with her sister and her parents in a beautiful place called Belle Reve, and she was happily married. Well, that's until she discovers that her husband's actually gay, a discovery that leads to her husband's suicide. Unfortunately, things don't just end there either. Her parents die, and she loses Belle Reve to having lots of debt. It's definitely not a pretty memory, and as her past causes Blanche to lose her sense of belonging, we begin to see how it affects her present life when she moves to live with her sister Stella. When we first see her, Blanche is dressed in white. This symbolizes purity and emphasizes Blanche's desire to wash away her scarred past and recreate a different reality for herself and start over with a clean slate. We learn that Blanche frequently hooks up with other men, hence her attempt at seducing the paperboy and being an active member of Hotel Flamingo. Nevertheless, her traumatic past experience with her late husband has clearly put her on high alert for long-term relationships. When a perfectly dandy young man named Mitch comes to pursue Blanche, and she leads him on to fulfill her short-term desires. However, once Mitch asks Blanche to meet his mother, a hint at maybe taking their relationship to the next step, Blanche suddenly backs out and for a period of time really pushes Mitch out of her life. Clearly, Blanche fears that getting herself into another long-term relationship will bring her more unexpected pain. Remember that polka song that keeps playing? That signifies the constant reminder of Blanche's traumatic past. In this sense, Blanche's past really plays a key role in why her and Mitch's relationship can't be long-lasting. Another clear showcase of the effects of Blanche's past comes in the facade that she builds for herself as to avoid confronting reality. Throughout the play, Blanche, despite lacking in wealth and having lost her house to debtors, always wears fancy clothing and owns an abundance of expensive accessories. This nods back at Blanche's pain of losing her previous social standing and wanting to fill that void by covering herself in lavishness to give off a pretentious air of extravagance and high class. Additionally, Blanche is afraid of light. In front of Mitch, she dodges from the light and attempts to dive back into the darkness so that Mitch won't be able to tell her real age. Her past has told her that reality is cruel and unlikable, so in order to avoid that pain and live in her own fanciful world, Blanche lives her life hiding from aspects of reality such as her wealth and age. The effects of the past applies in a very similar way to the Cider House Rules. On Dr. Larch's 18th birthday, his dad gifted him a prostitute, who unfortunately gave him gonorrhea. This portion of his past serves as a constant reminder of the pain in having sex, leading to his present self's constant rejection of sexual activities. Another aspect of his past is visiting Hoff Harrison, a very unhygienic abortion clinic. Dr. Larch meets a 12-year-old girl who got pregnant by her own father and who now has to go through the dangers and pains of receiving an abortion at such a young age. This encounter played a key role in shaping Dr. Larch's entire life, which is dedicated to helping the women in need by performing hygienic and safe abortions for those who don't have a choice. Moving along, we meet Melanie, one of the orphans at Larch's abortion clinic. In her past, she has been abandoned by her mother. Much like how Blanche's loss of her family resulted in a void of belonging, this abandonment shaped Melanie into a rather hateful yet vulnerable and insecure person, meanwhile developing a clear sense of aggression. Let's see some examples. She gets mad and tears down a house. She gets mad over not getting a barrette and breaks another orphan, Mary Agnes's arm. After her friend Homer breaks their promise of staying in St. Cloud together, she puts the blame on herself and her own physical features and calls herself ugly. And then she punishes herself by cutting herself with a razor in Ocean View. All of these cases demonstrate an expression of the buildup of hate in her past. This accumulation of hatred, self-doubt, and lack of trust in others resulted from her past causes her to lash out easily in aggression in the present. Now we move on to the next theme, that depriving one's freedom of choice may hinder their possibility to happiness. So let's talk Cider House first. For the 12-year-old girl that Larch meets at Hoff Harrison, getting pregnant was certainly not her choice. And now that she is pregnant, she has no choice but to undergo dangerous, illegal, and unsanitary procedures and get an abortion. At such a young age, she has no money to support her family and a baby. Given this, having no choice in the situation evidently deprives her ability to be happy. This is exactly why Dr. Larch then goes to St. Cloud's, building an environment where women who have no choice are able to make one out of risk. In another case, Homer, an older orphan who took on the role as Dr. Larch's medical assistant, reveals to Dr. Larch his uncomfort with performing abortion operations. Flash forward a bit and we learn of a couple, Candy and Wally, who find themselves heading off to St. Cloud's to seek an abortion. When their arrival provides the chance for Homer to finally leave St. Cloud's, he takes it. Leaving St. Cloud's was Homer's choice, and his ability to make this choice allowed him to experience a lifestyle that he never knew existed. He picks apples and also becomes a father. Though in the end, Homer did still return to St. Cloud's, he does so after experiencing another lifestyle and then decides where he ultimately belongs. If he had been deprived of the choice to experience life outside of St. Cloud's, he may never be truly happy, having to deal with uncomfortable procedures all day, and he may not be sure of what he wants in life. Now let's compare this lack of happiness due to deprivation of choice to what is shown in The Bonesetter's Daughter. We meet Precious Auntie, who is deprived of the choice of who to marry. While she's stuck to her own desires to marry her loved one, this choice is abruptly taken away when he is killed. This lack of choice causes Precious Auntie to fall into so much misery that she even attempts to kill herself. There's nothing more that simply screams lack of choice causes pain than this case right here. Another example from the same book applies to Gao Ling, the pretend sister of Precious Auntie's daughter, Lu Ling. After Precious Auntie's death, Lu Ling is sent to orphan school. However, a promised arranged marriage, originally planned for Lu Ling, had to be completed. Thus, without a choice, Gao Ling was brought in as the bride of the marriage. Later, we learn that Gao Ling calls Lu Ling, saying that she is living a significantly worse life. Her husband's addicted to opium and constantly needs money to supply his needs. If she had a choice, Gao Ling probably would not have married a substance abuser who has no time and love to spare for her. Instead, we see that her lack of choice and voice in her own marriage brings upon her deep misery.